I'm here in Biot at this wonderful home of Tom Saunders, architect and author. Tom, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you today. You've got a very interesting background. For 21 years you headed your own architectural company, and then you moved on to being a consultant. But you've also done many other things, including writing, and you wrote about this book called The Boiled Frog Syndrome. How did that come about?
Well, the clue of that is in the subtitle, Your Health in the Built Environment. I was deeply concerned about sick building syndrome, and I was also deeply concerned about the way in which we train architects. A lot of them come out of university now having not held a pencil. They don't know how to draw.
Are you saying that it's more computer orientated now?
Well, it's not just that. It's just that I started to read the classics, if you like, and deal with Plato and Pythagoras and Vitruvius and so on. And this was perennial wisdom. And I could see where I thought it was going wrong. So there are two parts to this book. One is about the health hazards that we have that are constantly with us. And the part two was about how we can create buildings so that when you walk into a building, you start to feel the vibrations, the energies, and so on.
Apart from writing this book, then you went on to broadcasting and doing more and more seminars. And I was quite intrigued by one of the subjects that you talked about, because one would think that seminars about buildings, where's the interest? But you talked about the sick building syndrome, as you mentioned before. I did a little bit of research, and I found that it's becoming quite a problem today. But what are the causes of this sick building syndrome?
The causes are principally that one of the main causes, let me say, is tinted glass windows.
No, why that?
And it's because we have these vast areas, particularly in commercial buildings, but you have sick building syndrome in private houses. You have sick plane syndrome now. Sick building is sick plane syndrome. But with tinted glass windows, it's the pineal gland secretes serotonin and melatonin.
Gosh.
So that when we wake up in the morning, it's because the light comes in and it triggers in serotonin, which gives us energy and light. And then at night, as it gets dark or in the darkness, it triggers out the serotonin and moves in the melatonin. And the melatonin is the stuff that you need to sleep and for healing work within yourself and so on. So that with the tinted glass windows, and you're sitting in this darkened room and you've got fluorescent lights which are also triggering all sorts of flashing lights which subliminally you don't read, that it's mixing up, is it going to release the serotonin or the melatonin? And so the tinted glass windows...
So it's lack of light,
it's
really.
a lack of proper light.
I can see that with this book, The Boiled Frog Syndrome, and your seminars, it's all about your expertise. But it's as though you've thrown all your cards in the air, excuse the pun, and then you go on to write this book, The Authentic Tarot. How did that come about?
Well, let me just backtrack a little. First of all, to get the Boiled Frog Syndrome published, there were lots of publishers who said, yes, it's very interesting, but there are 2 books here, there may be even 3. And I said, no, this is all of a piece. Each section has got a common bond within itself. To then start to look at the initiations that were in the mystery schools and the teachings of architects and so on, It's all about going from naivety to wisdom. When you look at the tarot, you see that I think it's an abuse of the cards to use it for fortune telling and prediction. When you understand
which is the first thing that people would think about,
course,
isn't it?
But when you start to understand the tarot and you look at the symbolism and decode the messages that are in the tarot, you realise it's an extraordinary and succinct story of the steps that you need to go through to go from naivety to wisdom. When the tarot was devised, I don't know, and it doesn't bother me whether it was ancient Egypt or whatever.
It's how it's used today.
It's how it's used today, and I felt there was a need to take it away from the people who are the fairground fortune telling, and use it as an extraordinary device for showing us exactly what we need to do in business, in politics,
as a tool,
in our private lives, to run an ethical and life, and to know how to bring up from the subconscious mind, in other words, the intuition, how to raise that to a conscious level and knowing what we're doing. Because, for example, Plato said that everybody is gifted with total wisdom and knowledge, and all we do is to find the teachers to help us to remember. So when people come to me, either for seminars or for a reading, you're reading about the present, not about the future. And I ask the person who I'm reading for, I don't want to know, but have in mind while they're shuffling the cards to say what it is that what they have in mind which is concerning for them. We don't have problems, we have issues. So it's the issue that is important. And I do a 21 card spread, and the card that's in the centre of the 3 rows, by some strange serendipity, it tells me what that is there. It's a psychic thing, if you like, or whatever it may be. But what this does is that, again, with Jung, he said that it's to become that which you already are. In other words, everything that is within us to become people of wisdom. And so it's to become that which you already are, and not the persona that we like to project. That's what that's about.
And I shall enjoy reading that very much.
I hope you do.
With your readings, who predominantly chooses to have reading? Is it mainly males or females?
The males who come are mainly businessmen.
No, really?
Well, you see, the interesting thing is that if you're an entrepreneurial person, male or female, you are bound to rely a great deal on your intuition, the feminine principle, if you like.
Okay.
And so businessmen, if they would like to say, oh, it's my nose, or I had a smell of this, or they wouldn't.
Because it's not something I've ever heard a man ever admit to.
No, because he wouldn't. He would say, well, it was just a sort of the point, because he wouldn't say it was my intuition. And the same way with when you're reading for the tarot, yes, the majority of people who come are women. But very often it's about wanting to meet the tall, dark stranger who is going to be the perfect benefactor, perfect lover, and take care of the rest of their life. And what you find is that when you really study this and you get to grips with the tarot, it's a way of finding the tall, dark stranger within yourself.
It's almost as though you build your own house of cards.
Well, you do.
And on that note, Tom Saunders, thank you for speaking to me today. Absolutely fascinating.
It's been a great pleasure for me.
Thank you.